Take her weapon! Now! Don't ask why! The command sliced through the desert air like a blade. 5 instructors moved in without hesitation, surrounding the woman they'd quietly dubbed the biggest mistake in the program's history. What happened next over the course of 83 seconds would burn itself into memory. It would shatter assumptions, reduce reputations to rubble, and transform Eden Kess from an apparent administrative fluke into something the military had no protocol for. This is the story of how a quiet woman erased 5 elite soldiers, and why the footage remains buried beneath clearance levels that don't officially exist. Before we get there, I want to share something with you. Stories like Eden's take months to uncover scrubbed names, missing files, whispers no one wants to repeat. But they matter, because strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it walks in quietly and rewrites the rules. The convoy wheezed to a halt at South Gate Sector 9. The heat already clawing through the windows as 17 candidates prepared to meet their proving ground. Most of them wore the same expression, tense jaws, darting eyes, caffeine-fueled adrenaline. But Sergeant Trey Danner, observing from a shaded platform above the grounds, zeroed in on something off. One of the arrivals didn't match the file photos. She wore civilian boots, no tactical insignia, a plain gray top instead of regulation prep gear. Danner narrowed his eyes. She moved with an unhurried confidence, not arrogance, not fear, just certainty. Like someone who had already memorized the layout, exit points, visibility, personnel. Who the hell walks into echo training like she already passed it? Her name, Eden Kess. Her file was clean. Too clean. Commander Marla Quinn had flagged it earlier. Only 7 pages. Vague postings, no decorations. But buried at the bottom, one line had made her skin go cold. Previous clearance level Echo Black archived. She'd never seen archived attached to a living candidate, and never to one presumed civilian. Later, Quinn would review checkpoint footage 3 times. Eden didn't gawk like a tourist. She didn't follow the others. Her eyes tracked exit lanes, mirrored glass, blind spots, and her emergency contact section, redacted, not blank, scrubbed. Danner watched as she stepped into formation. Calm, silent, civilian on paper, but there was something in her stillness that didn't belong. "She's not green," he muttered. "She's just covered in dust." He didn't know it yet. But the rules of his world had just changed, and the system he thought he controlled had already been breached. Weakness was a luxury that got people killed, and sympathy, that was just weakness wearing a disguise. At Camp Grayson, there was no room for either, and Sergeant Trey Danner made sure of it. When the candidates assembled for their first outdoor assessment, Danner stood waiting on the tarmac like a lion watching new prey stumble into his domain. The sun was already high. The sand radiated heat like punishment. And across Range Echo 7, the ghosts of broken candidates still lingered. Obstacle courses stood like monuments, deceptively simple at a glance. But every line and corner had been engineered to expose ego and erase it. Danner moved through the formation, scanning faces. Most looked as expected young, lean, all energy and no edge. And then there was her, still, relaxed, hands at her sides, boots, civilian. But now, something else was watching her too. Private Wren Bishop. Wren wasn't the type that spoke much, grew up 3rd of 7. If she wanted to be heard, she'd learn to listen first. And there was something about the woman standing next to her in formation that made her neck prickle. At first, it was the way Eden moved, efficient, but never rushed. She didn't stumble over new protocol. She didn't scan for approval. She navigated the training grounds like someone who'd been there before, just not recently. Then came the weapons drill. Field strip the XM9 adaptive rifle, clean it, reassemble, time 15 minutes. Most recruits fumbled, some panicked, others grunted their way through with misplaced confidence. Eden. She approached the rifle like it was foreign, touched it like it might bite. Her hands moved slowly, uncertainly. But Wren noticed something Danner didn't. Her hesitation was fake. Each part came apart with practiced ease. Her fingers knew where to go, what to touch, where to apply pressure. Not just knowledge muscle memory, repetition born of survival. She finished in just under 6 minutes, still pretending to struggle, still hiding. Wren couldn't explain why, but it chilled her more than it impressed her. And Danner, he didn't see it, didn't want to. Each day, his harassment got more pointed, more personal, but Eden didn't react. Not with anger, not with fatigue. Just yes. Sergeant, understood. Sergeant, no edge, no inflection. Wren had watched people break before crack under less than this, but Eden didn't bend. She absorbed it all, like stone worn smooth by storms that never moved her. Wren started timing her runs, 7 minutes, 45 seconds, per mile, on the dot, day after day, like clockwork, like math. That's not a pace, Wren whispered to herself one morning. That's calibration. She didn't know who Eden Kess really was, but she was beginning to understand what she wasn't. The shooting range revealed something that had been quietly building for days, an inconsistency too precise to be accidental. Sergeant Trey Danner stationed himself behind Eden Kess like he was auditioning for a war movie, arms crossed, tone theatrical, ready to critique every flinch, every off-center shot. His smirk wasn't just confidence, it was performance, aimed not at Eden, but at the younger recruits still too green to tell the difference between competence and cruelty. The targets were set at standard qualification distances, the kind that separated trained shooters from weekend warriors. Around her, candidates fumbled through the basic stance, grip, breathing, trigger discipline. It was a symphony of missed shots and frustrated curses. Eden stepped forward like she was mimicking a checklist. Her posture was flawless, her grip exact. She raised her XM9 adaptive rifle slowly, as if consulting a memory she didn't quite trust. The desert heat shimmered across her scope, bending the air between her and the target like a mirage. She fired, then again, and again. Each shot spaced carefully, deliberately, like she was trying not to impress anyone when the ceasefire was called. Danner swaggered forward, already rehearsing whatever demeaning line he planned to deliver. But the moment the target came back, everything changed. It wasn't 5 holes, it was one, a single, ragged opening dead center in the bullseye. 5 shots, 1 point of entry. Master Gunner Frank Voss, the range instructor who'd trained special ops teams for over 2 decades, turned pale. He'd seen groupings like that 3 times in his life, and every time, the shooter's name had ended up redacted in records that weren't supposed to exist. But Danner, he saw only what he wanted to see, dismissed it, mumbled something about luck, and walked away, still clinging to the lie he'd built around her. Then came hand-to-hand training, and that's where everything started to crack. Danner's style was brutal raw dominance, brute strength. His demonstrations weren't instruction, they were intimidation. He'd slam candidates to the mat like it was a message adapt or bleed. Eden was paired with Delaney, a former college wrestler with 70 pounds on her and the kind of swagger that came from never losing. She looked unsure, hesitant. The move she attempted was textbook, just as Danner had shown. Delaney went down with a thud, got up, nodded. End of drill. Not quite. Private Wren Bishop had been watching from the edge, watching closely. What she saw wasn't hesitation, it was refinement. Right before Eden moved, her weight shifted slightly, her grip adjusted by millimeters. The leverage she used, not what Danner had taught. It was cleaner, faster, smarter. When Danner tried to correct her form, telling her to use more force, less finesse, Eden just nodded, but her nod didn't say, "I agree." It said, "I've done this with people who actually mattered." Each day brought fresh attempts to humiliate her, and each day, Eden responded with the same robotic calm. Yes, Sergeant understood. Sergeant, it wasn't just unnerving. It was unclassifiable. She gave them no anger, no weakness, no tells. She was smoke in a battlefield full of fire, and no one, not Danner, not the recruits, not even Bishop had any idea what she was really preparing for. The breaking point came in week 4. Major Harrow called it the reality check drill, but everyone on base knew what it was. An execution staged for an audience. The rules survived 30 seconds, against 5 of Camp Grayson's best. If you failed, you were out. No appeals, no transfers, just a black mark on your record that followed you like a ghost. And standing in the center of it all was Eden Kess. Most still called her Caldwell, an alias from a quieter past. But the people who mattered were starting to suspect that wasn't her real name. The announcement came after lights out, when exhaustion blurred the line between fear and clarity. "We separate the pretenders from the real thing tomorrow," Harrow told them, standing in front of the floodlights like a prophet preparing the storm. "This isn't a drill. It's a revelation." Then he locked eyes with her. "Kess, you've struggled with basic competencies since day 1. Let's see if anything from your civilian life translates." He let the silence stretch. 5-on-1, no resets, no excuses. "If you're still standing after 30 seconds, we'll call it a miracle." Gasps. Then silence thick as oil. This wasn't a test. It was public execution wrapped in doctrine and delivered with a grin. But then something shifted. She smiled. Not defiance, not sarcasm, a quiet, eerie contentment. Like someone hearing an old melody no one else could hear. Private Wren Bishop, watching from the second row, felt her stomach knot. Every instinct she'd ignored since day 1 began screaming, they picked the wrong person. By morning, word had spread. Soldiers from every unit found a reason to show up. The medics prepped trauma kits. Field officers lined the perimeter. Even Commander Vexley showed arms folded, eyes unreadable. She'd been up all night rereading Kess's intake file. A line from the security clearance still wouldn't let go. Archival. Tier observe only, classified under shadow folder. Then came the 5 cross. Shinoda, Clem, Bram, Marek. Each one hand-picked, each one elite. They stretched casually like apex predators, supremely confident the outcome was already decided. But when Eden Kess stepped out of the equipment bay, the air changed. Her gait was different-centered, precise, efficient, not trained, conditioned. And when she rolled up her sleeves, the scars said everything her file didn't. Bullet traces, surgical crosshatches, shrapnel memory, all healed, all real. Commander Vexley exhaled slowly. She's not a candidate, she realized. She's a relic from something we weren't supposed to see again. Major Harrow stepped to the line, lifting his whistle. No weapons, no eye gouging. Stay standing or surrender. Caldwell, any last words? Eden turned to face him, and this time, her voice wasn't quiet. Just one. "When this is over, will you finally admit you never knew what you were looking at?" Not louder, but somehow more present, like the words were being carved into the desert air itself. "Just one question, Sergeant," Eden Kess said, her voice steady. "When this is over, will you finally admit you never knew what you were looking at?" The 5 attackers began to spread, forming a loose semicircle. Their movements smooth with the confidence of men who'd trained together for years. They discussed their plan the night before: overwhelm her with speed and angles. Hit hard. End fast. Make it clean. Make it humiliating. Sergeant Danner raised the whistle. One sharp blast and the desert exploded. Delaney was the first, all 230 pounds of him, barreling forward like a freight train, shoulder lowered, momentum primed. If he connected, it was over before it began. But Eden wasn't there. She shifted exactly 8 inches left at the last possible moment. Not a retreat, a redirection. Delaney stumbled past her into empty space. Her hand touched the base of his neck. Just once. A surgical strike. His legs gave out, collapsed like a building whose foundation had quietly disappeared. He lay in the dust, blinking at a sky that no longer made sense. Then came Marston and Torres, flanking from either side, but Eden had vanished again. Physics betrayed them. They collided mid-sprint, limbs tangling, knees smashing, two weapons turned against themselves by absence before they could rise. She was already among them. A palm strike to Marston's shoulder arm, dead. A foot to Torres's knee joint, locked. Done. Bradner came in low, fast, calculating. He reached for her legs, but there were no legs where legs should be. She rose above him like smoke, elbow connecting to the base of his skull with frightening precision. He crumpled instantly. Less than 20 seconds had passed, and only one remained. Novak, the strategist, the silent predator, the last man standing. But now his hands twitched. His stance wavered. He was staring not at a sparring partner, but at something he didn't have a word for. She wasn't fighting. She was expressing something, like violence was a language, and only she spoke it fluently. Commander Marla Quinn watched from the perimeter, the blood draining from her face. That tattoo barely visible beneath Eden's rolled sleeve confirmed everything. 6 parallel lines, 1 crossed out. Echo Division, the Phantom Unit. Operatives whose records didn't exist, whose actions never appeared in after-action reports, whose survival often meant someone else's name was buried instead. The 7th line crossed out meant she'd been presumed dead. And yet, here she stood. Novak took a step back, then another. "I yield," he whispered, voice barely audible in the stunned silence. Eden didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply checked the others, one by one. Her touch now gentle, clinical, ensuring no permanent damage had been done. Only pride had been destroyed. The silence fractured when Private Wren Bishop began clapping. Softly at first, then louder. Others joined, then more, until all of Range Echo 7 stood on their feet, not in celebration, but in recognition. They weren't applauding a victory. They were acknowledging a truth. For weeks, they had been in the presence of something extraordinary, and been too blind, too arrogant, too conventional to see it. Eden picked up her towel, slung her bag, walked away with the same unhurried grace she had the day she arrived. Except now, everyone finally understood what they had been watching. Within hours, Eden Kess was quietly reassigned. Her new role, advanced combat instructor. Her true past still sealed. Her name never spoken aloud again. But those 83 seconds would echo through Camp Grayson for years, not as a drill, but as a redefinition of what deadly truly looked like.